in those years though, no husband's coming along. I'm dating. I'm at Franciscan University. Like I'm trying to meet nice young Catholic men, but nothing was right. And at 30, I went online on Catholic Match. And I did not want to go online at Catholic Match. I was like, Lord, I love men who like Jane Austen. And I
drop the handkerchief and they pick it up at the ball. That is what we were doing.
Exactly. I was like, I don't want to meet someone online, Lord. I don't want to meet someone
Honestly,
online.
I feel like the amount of stumbling blocks that Mr. Darcy and Jane Austen have been to a whole generation of women. I mean, there's good lessons to take from it. And I love those books, of course. But I think women are just, unfortunately, I think women do struggle today with being willing to put themselves out there because we do have these idealistic ideas and it can maybe do a disservice. So anyways, kudos to you for just saying, I'm going to do the dating platform.
Well, I think Mrs. Bennett would have like made profiles for her daughters.
She had a level of wisdom, that lady. Yeah. I mean, she had a level of tremendous foolishness, right? Right. But there was a little bit of wisdom in how she saw the world.
Yeah. So if that had existed back then. But, no, I felt like I was telling God, I want to get married. I want to get married. I want to get married. But I was trying to control how I met my husband. Mm-hmm. And so I felt like, all right, Lord, I'm going to open a window and you can, if this is where you want me to meet my husband, then
the prince can go through the window.
He will come in through the window. That's what we're going to do. And very shortly after that, I did meet the man who would become my husband.
Online.
We met on Catholic Match and this was early days of Catholic Match. So everyone was still writing letters. So we wrote letters to like long emails to each other every day. Not physical, but emails. There was no chat. There was no text. And we had our first phone call a couple of weeks after. And then he came in town and we went on a great date. And he took me to see all of these beautiful, he was from Pittsburgh, but he was teaching in South Carolina at the time. And he came up to visit his mom, but really to take me out. And we went around and looked at all these beautiful old buildings in downtown Pittsburgh and beautiful old churches. And I was so smitten by him. Like I was so nervous I couldn't eat, at the meal. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the man I'm going to marry. I'm sure this is the man I'm going to marry. And I came home and my best friend was there and she's like, tell me all about it. I was like, he showed me old buildings. And she's like, oh Lord, nobody could have picked a better date for you. But he did not have the same feelings about me. So his thought was not, I'm going to marry this woman. His thought was, she's really lovely. She's really interesting, but I don't think this is it. But he did want to keep talking to me. So we had this long distance on and off kind of friendship over the course of the next year.
And he wanted to keep talking to you because he liked your mind, your personality. Like there was a connectivity there and he didn't want to let go of that. Like not that we're going to fully speak for him here because he's not here, but why? I mean, if he's like, I'm not interested like that, why was he still talking to you?
That was a good question, Lila. That's a really good question.
It's a telltale sign of something,
well,
right?
It wasn't clear right away that that's not how he felt. Like he kept
calling, I see. So he wasn't like, I'm not interested, Emily. He just kept on communicating.
He just kept on doing exactly what we've been doing for about a month. For the previous month.
And you're like, I'm marrying you.
And I was like, I'm going to marry this guy. I know I'm going to marry this guy. But I wanted to sort of give him space. I didn't know he was far away. I didn't know what was going on with him. And I think in February, finally, I was like, hey, you know what? You're sending me all these letters. When you're in town, you come and see me. What's going on? Like, what are your intentions here, basically? And he was like, well, I really enjoy our friendship, but I'm not prepared for anything more, which I know a lot of women have heard those words. And I was like, at that point, he did explain some things to me. He was like, well, I have this history. He'd had 2 broken engagements. He had some physical, he was sick at the time in a way that nobody understood. It was probably long Lyme's disease is what we eventually figured out. He just didn't feel like he was in the headspace to make a decision. And as I always tease him, his idea of falling in love with the person you're supposed to marry is a Disney movie, like where forest animals start singing and there's birds twittering around. He was
very romantic.
It was very romantic. Yeah. He expected to feel basically what I felt looking at him, like, okay, this is exactly who I want to marry.
Yeah.
And he didn't feel that way, but he's like, but I really like her. Like, I love being around her. She's interesting. She's funny. She's a good woman. I like to spend time with her, but I'm not there.
Quick segue, because I don't know. I feel like we have to do a little philosophizing on your story as we go. There's so much about it. But I think that that's so interesting because there is, back to Jane Austen novels and everything else, there is a cultural narrative, which isn't all wrong, but it definitely can be taken too far. Like you have to know, be the most attracted or the most drawn to, the most magnetic connection for it to be the one, right? And especially for men, they're told, well, you have to be super into her, like super into her in terms of like attractiveness and feeling like you're ready for this for it to make sense. And I think there's so much nuance that gets lost in these prescriptions that we give.
Well, my husband has a theory that, because you hear a lot of times you talk to these, lovely older people and they're in their 80s. I'm like, my grandfather and my grandmother, my grandpa met my grandma when he was 12 years old and he looked at her and said, I'm going to marry that woman. And sure enough, 6 years later, he married that woman. So Chris has this theory that that's kind of how we were made. We were made to very quickly know who we're called to love, but sin has harmed us in ways, and Hollywood and romance novels and all these things have changed our expectation.
Stuff, like
they've hurt us, the sexual sins. My husband had, he had lived with his girlfriend for a couple of years in college. And so I was not, I was very pure. I was very innocent at that point. And so my reaction to my husband, he's always like, well, you were in a healthier spot than I was to see clearly. I couldn't see as clearly. And I think that is true. I think sin really does affect how we see each other. It affects our expectations. And so it's not that love at first sight never happens and those relationships never work out. It just is rarer these days. So he thinks the sexual revolution has really changed our ability to instantly have that love at first sight and have the good sense to recognize when we meet someone we should marry. So again, this is like
great insight.
We could go on. It's a season by season blow. I mean, for 10 years, so this goes on for 9 years. Us keeping our friends entertained the whole time. My friends did not know what to do once we finally started dating.